मैं बना लेती हूँ यार, तो बना दिया। Radhakrishnan sir, very good morning. बोलो, सुनाओ यार, रेडी के तो
Hello.
एक सेकेंड सर. गुड मॉर्निंग, उषा from ISTD.
Good morning.
Yeah,
Good
I've made you the host, sir. Can you check if you can share your presentation?
Just a minute. Is it okay? Hello.
Yes, sir. I can see your screen.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful.
Sir, yes, sir.
Okay.
So we can see your presentation and we can hear you also.
Yeah, good morning. Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Yeah, it's now another 4 minutes we have. We can just wait for a few minutes.
Yeah. So, sir, I'll leave now.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you.
Not
Have
an
a good day. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a good day. We just have three, two
It's
participants.
just right now. It's just you and me, sir.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. One is me. Actually, sir, today is Easter, so few of them might not join.
What happened?
Today's Easter, no?
Oh, yeah. Got it.
So few of them might not join or would have taken some vacation. Let's wait.
Not an issue. See, whoever is there, we are very keen that we should only share our knowledge with those people who are keen to join. Not an issue. Adult learning, these things do happen.
Yes.
We are not full-timers, I appreciate.
Right. And video recordings are there, so I'm sure they can cover up.
Not an issue.
That's been told to all of them very clearly.
They can always join.
So how are you doing, sir? Wish you a happy Easter Sunday.
Oh, thanks a lot. Thank you.
Yes. I'll just while we are just you and me.
Yeah.
Yes. So I don't know if I had an opportunity to talk to you before or no.
Oh. Mr. Advani, have we met before?
Yes, that's what I don't know, sir. I just said, you know what? Let me just turn on my camera.
I recall having met you. I'm not able to make out. You are from
Yes.
Mumbai or Delhi?
Yeah, I'm actually, as I said, I'm a seaman,
Yeah, I see you traveling a lot. And
yes, that's right.
that's
So
right.
अभी रात का 12:30 हुआ है, सर.
कहाँ से आप अटेंड कर रहे हो सेशन को?
Yes. I'm actually traveling even now. So we are actually on the east coast of US.
Oh, I see. High seas. I see. That's you just
Actually,
see
what I did was I just put my alarm and I said, okay, let me try and attend as many sessions as I can.
True.
And enjoy attending the sessions.
It's,
that way I get to meet all my batchmates.
In fact, I'm amazed to see your spirit of learning. I can tell you. It's good thing. Good you are good while you are traveling. In fact, it's nice. You are taken up to some course where you can do reading. What happens is, since you travel 6 months.
Yes.
And you are on tour for a few days, and again you get back to ship. It's a challenge. It's a challenge for you all. So the best way to keep yourself, in good spirits is to take up some course like this. I think
Correct, sir. Correct.
that's a good thing. And as your tenure comes to, an end, as you gradually age up, then this will come very, very handy because knowledge resources are far and few today.
True,
Today
sir.
still people, who have a gray hair and a bald are still respected because the knowledge, knowledge is something which keeps on accruing and nobody can steal it unless you give it to somebody.
True, sir.
And the more you give,
Very well said.
the more you give, the more you get. That's how it is.
That is right. Yeah, as you say, the more you share, the more you gain.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yes,
That's
yes,
how
sir.
it
Yeah.
is.
Such
Very,
a pleasure and honor, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you.
I'm very happy. Very, very happy because I tell you, when I did my, last master's program, I was general manager, South Zone in Chennai. Then I could, I took 3 papers. I was doing my master's in foreign trade. So from
Okay, yeah.
one of the universities of
Uh,
South.
uh,
And then 2 papers I took. For the 4th paper, there was a business commitment and I had to, rush elsewhere. So I had to take those 2 papers 6 months. As you grow older, especially with your corporate commitments, balancing the two becomes a big challenge. And
correct.
I had to rush on an official duty. And so after taking the exam, 3rd paper, I just had to rush. Then
I see. Okay.
I had to give, but nevertheless, it's very amazing, as you grow older, with all the domestic priorities, corporate priorities, still, that
Yeah.
for learning is what drives people. I'm very happy
True.
very happy to see you, Mr. Advani. Hats off to you. Salute you.
Thank you so much. Actually,
And,
sir, what I also did was I also pursued the foreign trade management.
mm,
I also pursued it from Bombay University,
oh, fantastic.
Garware University, Garware Institute of Foreign Trade Management.
Acha, I see.
That
Good.
was my start as well. But same like you, same like you, I had to run, as soon as I finished I think
Yeah.
it was my first semester and second semester, then I had to run for my job.
It happens, especially people who who have a passion for education alongside their jobs. They have these
Yes.
challenges, but nevertheless, what keeps us going is, see, I registered for my doctorate, so I was doing my, but that was quite onerous. I have now reached some stage where I'm, in between, a lot of challenges were also there. My guide who was throughout with me, he passed away during COVID. So
Yes.
again, to change a guide, it takes time, especially with COVID
True.
around and universities closed. It was a little challenge. Now I
True.
brought it to some shape. And it happens when you're a corporate guy, pursuing your academic passion. A lot of challenges come en route because you need to be conceptually very, very strong to pursue it.
Correct. You're right, sir. You're right. You're absolutely right on that. Yes.
That's
So
right.
without any further ado, I don't want to delay everybody else. I think there are participants who are joining
There
in.
are how many participants are here?
So far, I see 10, 11 now, 12 now,
Joined.
12 and
Okay.
counting.
Quite
Okay.
good. Now
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
I'll start my session. Good
Yes.
morning, friends. Good morning. Good morning to you all.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Mayuri. So, in fact, a very, very happy morning to you all. And I'm once again after a break of 1 week, that is last week. So I was traveling, so I couldn't take the session last week. We will come back to our analytics domain. We have one small residual chapter left in module 2. We started talking about where we left was, we just introduced the importance of an HR analytics domain. People keep talking about business domains, analytics in business domains, and finance, and so on and so forth. But the importance of HR analytics domain can never be undermined because, as they say, I'm just Bernard Marr. He's a very well known. If you go through his YouTubes, you can see wonderful things which he has contributed, and you can listen to his lectures also on digital initiatives that are happening around the world. He is a very well-known man. He's, I'm very. He has also written a book. You should read that book. Very, very interesting. Just keep a note of this author, Bernard Marr, and start, watching his YouTubes and read his book. He's very well learned man on the digital initiatives in the world. So what he says is, a company which understands its employees is without a doubt better place to keep them motivated, happy, and productive. But a great deal of care will have to be taken to gain this understanding in a manner that is transparent and in line with people's expectations of privacy. These are the two challenges. We always said that the moment you start probing into how to keep people engaged by understanding them, there are a lot of apprehensions that you are intruding into the privacy of people. So that is the challenge which workforce analytics always, gives to the HR professionals. Nevertheless, it is very important that we leverage the technology of analytics to understand human behavior and what makes them engaged. I always, talk about engagement at workplace. A motivated, happy employee is always engaged in his work and he is productive to the organization. And are you on a PPT mode? Are you all? Can you see the PPT, the show mode I am in?
We can, sir.
Yes,
Okay.
sir. We
Okay.
can, sir.
This Yuval and Banderock, these people say HR analytics is a systematic identification and quantification of the people drivers of business income. In fact, we always say that people, process, and technology, these three things today, it's a different kind of a PPT we use. We all use PPTs, but the real PPT which drives the business is people, process, and technology. And when you talk about people, process, and technology, technology is something which you can put in place, and processes are driven through very, very intelligent people who understand the business imperatives. But the people in the field at different levels, people in the office who support the business, the field guys, they are the ones who need to be engaged. Then how to understand the knowledge, skill, and attitude of the people who are engaged into business, and make sure that they are not physically engaged, but they are fully engaged in spirit to create value to the organization. And HR analytics is something which gives us superb insights. These two definitions we had seen, and the third definition also that we had seen last class before we adjourned was human resources analytics is a communications tool first and foremost. That's one way of looking at it. It brings together data from disparate sources such as surveys and operations of different units to paint a cohesive, actionable picture. What happens is analytics, if you look at whatever you do, if your mind is able to see a pattern, then definitely we can say that you have a strong interest for analytics. The moment you see a pattern, you try to focus, take a deep dive into from those patterns and try to see how best you can create a story around it and tell people what needs to be done as a prescription. That's why we say that you look at the data, you try to report what has happened in the past, you then at a diagnostic level, you try to analyze it and try to finally tell what is going to happen, and then you then prescribe what should happen. And that is how analytics moves from one level to the other. And when you talk about human resource analytics, it brings people data, it joins people to business. Like I told you, if you have 20 different plants having same number of people, and if the 20 different plants have different levels of productivity, normally what happens is we try to tell the guys who are less productive, saying that a similar plant, if it can produce 100 units, why is your plant taking more time to produce 100 units, or spending more money to produce 100 units, or producing less than 100 units in the time allotted to you? You can, the moment you see, a series of data that is available, you can form judgments and you can start questioning. But in analytics, what happens is, it not only you question a manager why he is not performing in a review. However, when you start analytics, you will be able to also tell the manager, boss, if you are saying that this is what you are doing to improve, and by vis-a-vis some benchmark standards you are not doing, please look at certain areas, and those areas can be pinpointed to the business managers. That is where workforce analytics can really help, for which today the biggest challenge is the HR people need to have competency of understanding business. That is the first and foremost thing. When we are going to see the 8-step, purposeful analytics, you will be seeing how Jonathan has beautifully outlined what needs to be done if you need to have a workforce analytics in place that can drive the company. Now, when you talk about Jonathan Ferrer, he is the man who has come out with this 8-step purposeful analytics, HR analytics. So what he says is, in his book, he quotes Techopedia. And this Techopedia says, HR analytics is an area in the field of analytics that refers to applying analytic processes to HR department of an organization in the hope of improving employee performance and therefore getting a better return on investment. In fact, it is a challenge to keep employees engaged all the time. Some people say you give them some monetary incentive. That doesn't work. Some people say you give them some job which enriches them. But people keep on doing, at any point in time, HR departments keep on experimenting with what needs to be done to keep an employee engaged. Now, today technology helps you to identify those prescriptive actions that can keep an employee engaged. An engaged employee provides better return on investment. This is what Jonathan Ferrer, quotes from Techopedia, and he always says that you ask a business question to begin with in your entire analytics, in your journey on HR analytics. Now, when we talk about, human capital metrics, how did this human capital metrics evolve? There is a wonderful book, The New HR Analytics, written by Jack Pitzens. The authors here say that in the initial phase, at the first level of HR capital metrics, people were monitoring the transactions. That is your HR activity reports. What did you do? I recruited 10 people. How many people did you train? I trained about 15 people. How many people are absent? There are 20% of people who are absent on a critical day. Like this, these kind of mundane HR activity reports of day-to-day transaction monitoring was the first level of reporting or analytics, which, very, very elementary form of analytics that was being done in human capital metrics. Now, after that, from transactional monitoring, people gradually went up to performance monitoring. Performance monitoring, in fact, I always was very fascinated right from my younger days about how Peter Drucker could, really come up with this management by objectives. He did fantastic research on various organizations, and he came up that what does not get measured does not get done. If you can't measure, if somebody is saying, I want sales, you need to talk about what is going to be the sales volume, what is going to be the sales revenue, what is going to be the sales profits, what is going to be a top line, bottom line, and what is going to be the investment to get that kind of a sale. What is going to be see, unless you pick up critical, performance related questions, you will not be able to monitor the performance. If I target myself 100 units for a particular period, now I need to identify if I'm going to sell 100 units, what is the money I'm going to make? If the salesman, if I have to fix him a target, I should also tell him that you sell 100 units. Okay, fine. This year, since our brand is not very strong and our competitors are very aggressive, you sell 100 units, but this month we will sell it at a loss to penetrate the market. See, there is always a trade-off between your volumes and margins. Where do you want to pick up this trade-off? So this kind of performance monitoring was in the second level as the human capital metrics evolved. Metrics is nothing but measurement. When you talk about efficiency of a person, you need to have, performance monitoring metrics. That is what was realized. And then the second, as human capital metrics evolved, people moved away from mere transactional monitoring to performance monitoring. And then at the third level, what happened? The data started getting accumulated, organizations started growing large, and then activities started getting broadened, and then people had to be evaluated and promoted and shown the door. When there is a carrot, there is also a stick associated with it to drive your business. How, it was felt necessary that whatever metrics you are looking at has to be very, 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 very closely connected to the business. Now, from performance monitoring to business metrics, and then from business metrics to predictive analytics. When you talk about predictive analytics, you have to, in fact, if you have data, you can also tell this month, come what may, this sales guy is not going to achieve his targeted volume. Come what may, this month, there is going to be a downtime in your manufacturing unit. Come what may, this is going to happen. So the predictive analytics is going to, it tells you what is going to happen that is going to have an impact on your business. What is the people factor which is going to be very, very critical to your business, and what is going to happen, because the people related activities have a certain pattern, and based on the pattern you can predict what is going to happen. So these are the four ways in which gradually human capital metrics evolved. Now, when you talk about an analytics process as such, HR analytics uses measurements and analytical techniques to understand, improve, and optimize people's side of business. Now, how do? They pick up the raw data that is available. Then they try to measure them by giving certain ratios or certain absolute numbers, averages, core. So many statistical measures are available, right from counting, tracking, and presenting the past data. Then they use advanced statistical techniques to find out patterns and predict future, future performance. This is what is going to happen based on data, based on metrics, and based on analytics. The management is advised of the action that is required to be taken. This is how the HR analytics as a process drives. This is, in fact, I would suggest, I had also given earlier in my book also, I have said, this beautiful process is defined, in a book called The Practical Guide to HR Analytics by Rachel Johnson and Murray Lindsay. In fact, the four-author, it's a four-author and others. In fact, Shona Waters is also a very, very good HR analytics professional. And you go through this book leisurely, you will be able to have a very strong conceptual understanding. Now, when we talk about HR analytics, what are the data sources for an HR analytics? Where do you get the data? The data is obtained from the file relating to recruitment, file which talks about the demographic data, file on performance management. You have got database, your learning management, job architecture, the role, the way they are defined, and compensation and benefits. succession planning, talent development, and you get fantastic information from exit interviews. In fact, I recall I've during my career as an executive director, I used to have exit interviews for those guys who say they have resigned from the company. I used to tell them, fine, HR department is going to have a formal exit interview forms. You fill the forms, but before you submit to formally that to HR department, I would like to have an interview along with my HR head. Now, we made it a practice that the HR head and the business head should sit together and conduct an exit interview. You will be surprised. More than the formal filling up of forms, what contains in that, when the guys start talking, you get fantastic insights into what corrective action needs for your organization if you want to retain talent. And remember, most of the people leave not because of organization, because of their bosses. It becomes very, very important, therefore, for bosses to, I'm just slightly moving away from the analytics, but this is a fact. The analytics, and the interviews and the data that is collected show a pattern that most of the people, on a critical day, if a guy wants a leave, if an employee wants a leave to celebrate a wedding anniversary or a child's birthday, there are people who mercilessly tell them what is more important to the company is your work. And all these things are your personal things you can do after you go back home also. That is something, in fact, many people have told it was my child's birthday I had to celebrate. And my wife and I had decided to take the child out somewhere. But my boss said, nothing doing, you have to complete this task, you're not going out. These are some of the reasons, which will come out in exit interviews very interestingly. And if you try to take this data and see the patterns, you really, Mayuri, you raised your hand.
Yes, so I just wanted to add to what you said, if I'm allowed to do so.
Yeah.
So other than line manager being an issue in an exit interview, the survey also talks nowadays two more reasons of common. One is lack of career and development opportunities in an organization makes employees leave. Yes. And the second one is the benefits part of it. I think these two also are pretty predominant along with line manager.
You are right.
Behavior.
You are absolutely right. So that's why they say, the HR data, if you look at it, the talent development data and compensation and benefits, you will get fantastic insights. Normally what happens is people try to leave the company because, in fact, I am today running, I have started as a CEO to establish a startup organization, a new organization which imports and markets some of the automotive and industrial lubricants in this country. Whenever I interview, I would have interviewed in the last 6 months more than around 150 people. When I ask them, why are you leaving the company? One of the reasons they say, sir, there is no scope. I'm doing the same job for quite some time. There is no scope in this company to give me a job which will add to my value. At least in your company, I'll be selling a new product. I'll be going and meeting customers and explaining to them about the new products. And that will help me in developing the, learning something new, a new product, new market and things like that. Yes, somebody from ISTD has...
So, sir, I also wanted to, add something. Please correct me if I'm right. Yeah. So, what I'm saying is most of the organizations...
Tell me your name.
My name is Usha, sir, from ISTD.
Yeah. Tell me, Usha.
Yeah. So, in continuation, what I feel is most of the organizations do not even have leadership trainings to groom people, identify people for the next role. And that is the reason most of us become mandate doing the same thing, and it's a mundane job, and then eventually the motivation goes down. Correct?
Absolutely. Correct. You are absolutely right. That is why this pattern also you can study when you look at the database on succession planning. What happens is many of the companies don't even have such kind of a database with them about the employees. That is the biggest challenge. What happens is when if you have a succession planning, see, I will tell you, when I was working in Hindustan Petroleum, I would have handled 14 different roles. For example, when you join a company, you need to know, you have to soil your hand in the precious oil to learn about the business. So you are put in a place where the product is, you have to touch, feel, bill, invoice, and get money by shipping and having the product stored. Then you have to know about market research. Then in fact, when I reached a certain level, the company decided that he is a guy who needs exposure in HR. So suddenly I found myself as a head of corporate training for the company. Then somebody said, no, this guy needs to be in IT. So I suddenly found myself driving business intelligence system for the company and heading the ERP of the company. So this is, see, the succession planning. What people say is, you have a succession planning and you have a talent development plan for the employees, so that the company, the employees feel that at every stage in their journey, in their corporate journey, they are learning and growing. See, this learning management is not, it doesn't come just when you put a person for a training program.
Yeah.
Besides that, you give a person a challenge in a new domain, so that he swims across, learns, and grows. And about 10 domains if a guy handles, by the time he reaches 45, 50, he becomes a well-rounded leader. In fact, I won't call a manager, because a manager is somebody, I would say that a leader is a more powerful position than a managerial position. And if an individual in an organization can transform himself from a manager to a leader, then the job is done. Anyway, today we're coming closer to the topic which I am talking about. When you talk about analytics, if you have a data, you will really be able to link this data to, if you see this chart, All India AHR Academy is, it talks about linking the data sources to the business data. The business data comes from the CRM system, from the financial system, from the materials planning and production management, from sales, and from all other sources, where you will be able to see your entire HR sources need to be linked to the last column given in red, where your HRIS data, supporting HR data, and the business data, all the different data in different sources, in different files, electronically, are brought together and aligned. That is how your HR analytics can be built. Almost you have very, very robust data from HRIS system, other non-HRIS system based data, and business data. Also, in fact, I still remember we had done an analysis where we found out that our, the locations where your CSR activities are being done, such locations have very limited problems regarding project management. So your project management, is directly linked to handling people, and that is, project affected people are very much around, who try to bring in spokes to the projects that you are handling. And this kind of, where the company proactively understands the concern of the local project affected people and takes care of their requirements, in such areas, the projects have lesser problem than the areas where you don't do anything. So what happened is, analytics gave a prescriptive model that whenever you handle a project in that project domain, in that project geographical area, make sure that you undertake a study and have a CSR initiatives. Yes, Mr. Advani.
Sir, I just wanted to ask you, what do you mean by HRIS data and CRM data?
Acha, HRIS is Human Resource Information System. See, today what happens is, in large organizations, you have a database of all the human resources that are recruited in the organization. That means you have the, any information about an employee should be available in an electronic form in an HRIS system. Similarly, CRM is customer relationship management. In fact, I spearheaded this CRM initiative for Hindustan Petroleum sometime around in 2018. Now, what it does is, It tries to, have the database of a customer. It has the different modules, a complaint management system and a lead to opportunity system. Everything about a customer is available in the system, and you are not dependent on a field executive to know about a system. The thing is, nowadays, in fact, in very many companies, what they do is, a company which doesn't have a CRM system, what happens? I'll talk from that side. The sales guy, you appoint a sales guy. He handles, say, for example, 1 or 2 districts. And this guy in that district, he goes and contacts customers. He knows who is the customer who is very important, who is the president of the company, who is the purchase head, who is the finance head, who is the, stores head. You have to go through all these people finally to have a purchase order initiated, convince the customer about the quality of your product, and finally sell the product. So now, in the absence of a CRM data, what happens is, such a data is available with the sales guy in his diary, let us say, or in an offline mode. Now, the guy leaves the company, the entire data goes with him. Now, the companies, as the companies grow larger, the companies will have to be independent as far as information system is concerned, and they should have independent record of information. You may have a transaction data, you may have through your ERP system, you may know other things, but the core customer data should be available with the company. Similarly, suppose you have a lead, you go to a customer, new factory is opening, you are going there and soliciting business for your company. Now, the moment you go there, you create a database. Here is a new factory coming up. This is what it is they are doing. And gradually what will happen is, the system tells you last visit you did on this date. And then subsequently at every stage, whatever developments are there with respect to the follow-up visits and discussions with the customer prospect, you keep on capturing them in the system. And right from the lead stage to an opportunity stage, to finally a sales order stage, and a relationship stage of where the customer prospect turns into a customer and starts buying your product. This entire process is captured in the system. If you have a global organization, then what happens is, you have information about the customer known to the organization, which can be used as a learning platform. When similar, if I handle about if I have a database of 10,000 complaints which have come from across the world, whenever a similar complaint comes, I will have a database to look at, to know how the problem had been solved in another area, and I can provide inputs to the problem area. That is how a CRM database is nothing but customer relationship management database, where end to end, from cradle to graveyard of a relationship, you can have it in your system. It's a very, very robust system. There are a lot of companies which have. Yes. Can I move forward? Hello?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I think, Mr. Advani, I think you got a clear idea?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Now, how does an HR analytics proceed? HR analytics level 1, you just have the metrics, like we saw it in the evolution of HR system. Level 1, you have a descriptive reporting and transaction reports and things like that pertaining to your HR activities. Level 2, you talk about your workforce planning, scenario building, and statistical modeling and forecasting. What predictives use? What you say predictives? This is what is going to happen in the company. From the 10% of the employees are resigning from the company every year. So as we go along, we predict using statistical models, around 7 to 8% of attrition is going to be there in the company every year. Now we need to plan for that. So when I'm recruiting one person and waiting for him to join, then he may not join. So I'll have, for every one person, I'll have 3 vacancies, three persons for 1 vacancy. So that's how I will try to plan and take prescriptive action as we go along. So you first talk about a descriptive analysis, then you talk about a predictive analysis, and then you talk about a prescriptive analysis, and the value to the company from a descriptive to a prescriptive level shoots up like anything. In fact, When you talk about human, it is said, I have just given in my PPT also, HR analytics is more of a logical approach than a statistical approach. That means you need to be very clearly in a position to understand the business problems to formulate your problem statement. The moment you formulate a problem statement, then your analytics begins from there. Now we come, in your syllabus also, this 8-step model for purposeful HR analytics is given. In fact, I have covered it in my study material also. What he says is, the objective of every HR department is not to keep the employee, data. The objective is to ensure that the employee data is leveraged to convert the employees more and more engaged to create value for the organization. If an organization has to create value, it can come only from the employees, because everything can be taken for granted, but people are required to drive the processes and technology. And if a person is not engaged, you will not be able to do anything. If a person is engaged, you will be able to drive any tough target. Yesterday, in fact, I was talking to somebody about an undersea road which has been built in Mumbai. In fact, Atal Setu is one, and this undersea road is another one which is coming. The person who was talking to me was so passionate. He was saying this is something which, in India we have got now, but in other developed Western countries it is already available. But we are very proud that we have this in Mumbai. He was talking with passion about the project he was handling. I just casually was driving past Marine Drive and stopped the car to know where exactly that was starting. And I was talking to this engineer, and I asked him, what drives you? He said, what drives me is my sponsor, which means that the person who is doing this project, the state government or whatever it is, the people who want such a project to come up in Mumbai, those people are fully backing. He was probably a middle level project manager, I would say, and he was so passionate about it. Then that's what I always say, that if you can trigger a person to be engaged, your 90% of the job is done. Nothing but 90% of the job is done if the person is just what triggers a person is what HR should know. And today HR analytics helps you to understand such things. Now, this 8-step model for purposeful analytics has been developed to help workforce analytics practitioners, HR professionals, and leaders. In fact, I always look at it, this any leader is first an HR manager. Only then he becomes a business manager. If you can't be an HR manager, you cannot be a good business manager. And when you want to be a good business manager, you have to appreciate you should learn what triggers people. If you are able to understand and just touch it, either with soft hands or with iron hands, you will see the consequence yourself. In fact, it's very interesting this. And today, to have a superior understanding of pattern of behavior of people, it is it's very, very important. And Jonathan Ferrer, in his book The Power of People, learn how successful organizations use workforce analytics. He states that the successful analytics projects derive their success because of two components. First, rigorous and meticulous model. You have to build a meticulous model. And secondly, a strong project sponsor. A strong project sponsor is driven by the top management. The top management has to be fully committed in trying to drive HR analytics in the company and use the prescriptive decisions that are coming out of it. If you don't do that, it will become a, there is no point in doing HR analytics. Therefore, the strong and rigorous and meticulous model is built by HR people. You cannot blame the management saying that my model is bad because my management didn't bother about it. No. And the HR person has to sell his HR model to the management so that they buy and they stand behind the HR team to develop this, entire HR analytics based on the meticulously designed model. That's how HR analytics, the success depends on that. Now, when you talk about the 8 steps, first is when you are driving a workforce analytics problem, we'll have to say, frame the business question. What is the business reason? Now, I will just give you a simple example from your learning and development. We are not here to talk about without an illustration, I won't want to say, because this model is very robust, and you read that book, you'll really love to read that book. Whenever you have time, go through it, because I very passionately look at anything that is analytics, because the last 6 years of my career, after spending 29 years in business and 3 years as a head of corporate training, I felt that this analytics is a game changer for the entire world. Now, what, say for example, if you want to build a model that, see, people are sent for training program. Now, in this training program, these guys are not going to get any value. The reason is not that they don't want to see value. The reason is because the training program is meant for somebody in an age group of 30 to 35 who is very good in a particular skill or competency to further that through this program. Now, one is you need to identify the age group. 2, you need to identify what is the basic requirement for a manager to go through a particular training program that has been designed. Now, they say, management will say, boss, you have to put they will call the training manager and say, you get these 25 people. Now, based on your data, if the training program is not going to be a success, there can be very many reasons. One is the persons who are doing have to go through another small program to come for this program. How will you sell this to the management? And second thing is the business question. The business is so rich that for him to go through this program, he must be of this age group, 30 to 35 or something. I'm just giving you as an illustration. Now, first thing is the training manager should know what is the business reason. If this is going to be, if the leadership is telling that my people should, I am going to have these guys for this particular training program so that they can increase the revenue from each area. Now, if that is the business reason, accordingly, you build what you believe will give, what training program you believe is going to give you the success. Now you build a hypothesis around it. Now, for these guys to going based on the, data, and your knowledge. That's what I say. The learning and development head must have, the HR person must have very strong business knowledge. Then you should be able to believe, you should have a hypothesis for this course. It is, you need to have a hypothesis that this is the competency required, this is the age group required, this is the skill required, this is the academic qualification required. These 4 things only are pre-qualification for a success of the company's business imperative through this particular training program. That is how you build a hypothesis. Then the third step, you gather data around it. Now you gather the people, you gather information about those people who have gone through similar program, what is their profile and what is the outcome of their program to them. if you have around already this training program, a lot of training organizations will come and give us a solid plan. Sometimes your top management go abroad, they see such similar programs being done. Then for gather data of what you want, what your hypothesis is around. You gather data accordingly and see what is the, in the past, so many people of this particular age group have attended, of this particular competency, or they have gone through this pre-program, what they have done. Like this, you need to identify, and it's not a small job. It is a massive job to collect data that would sync with the hypothesis which you have built for a particular training program. Then many people, one word of caution here when you are collecting data is, what people do is, when they do any analytics, first they have a data and then they say, this is the data I'm having and I will analyze it and give results on the hypothesis by using the existing data and not the relevant data. So when you try to use the data and perform an analytics, you will have cart before the horse for a prescriptive modeling. Now, if you want to gather data around your hypothesis, then you will gather meaningful data which is available. Otherwise, you will be using any data that is available and you will be driving. Now, step 4 is conduct analysis. Now, there are statistical methods to test the hypothesis and draw conclusions and judgments. Without this step, in fact, I was, as a part of my PhD work, I was wanting to know what are the, out of about 7 different items in a petrol pump, what is it that a customer wants? Does he want, a restaurant? Does he want an ATM? Does he want, a water? Does he want somebody to give free air? If you just go through a list of activities, the topmost thing that came, whether it is a very small fuel station or a large format petrol pump with all the elite facilities, when we did a sample survey, the gathered data, they all said, irrespective of whether he is a rural customer or an urban customer or a customer traveling on a highway, where you have all the facilities of large format petrol pumps, they all said our first requirement is a good fuel. We want to go to a petrol pump where I am very confident that the fuel that I am putting will make sure that I reach my destination safely and the fuel is of the right quality. Then everybody started listing anything else. So when you try to conduct analysis, you need to have a lot of statistical tests, and you test the hypothesis, and these statistical tests will give you good insights. So the step 4 is you conduct analysis using statistical methods. Now, as an HR manager, you may say, sir, I am not a statistics guy. I don't have a fundamental knowledge. Do I have to do a program? Not required. You have data analyst, you have data scientist. But where your expertise will come forward is you should be able to define the business statement, problem statement, or business reason. You need to tell them for building your, how your what is your hypothesis. That all comes from your experience, your knowledge about your learning and development domain. And then you tell them, this is what I need to look at, and you tell me whether what I am thinking is right or wrong, whether my hypothesis is applicable, so that I can tell my management that if you want to conduct this program, and this program is going to cost, a leadership program is going to cost me 10 lakhs per employee. I want to send the top 50 employees who will be, after this course, they will take higher positions and all. You must be able to support with adequate data analytics, predictive and prescriptive modeling, that you give me these kind of managers only. Or if you do not have these kind of managers, first equip them with the foundation knowledge before they are nominated for a program which you are talking about. These kind of things is what we say workforce analytics will be able to give. And workforce analytics will tell what is the current level of your managers who are being thought of being nominated for such leadership programs. And then you tell them that pre-program should be like this before they come for this program. Then the moment you say, forcefully say that, management, you should be able to convincingly give the story so that the management, before they invest, they think twice. And if they invest, they make sure that they invest with on a right platform for these people to create value for the company. Then you can justify that I have conducted this program for so many people. You see the business value coming out of these guys. Then at that time, it will be very strongly validated. I recall once, somebody said we need to have a program for the engineers in the company. When we started talking about petrol pump design and all, what we did, when we said we had engineers who were, then I said, if you want to have an engineer, a group of engineers to be trained, they need to first, they will have to be on the field. A guy who has to be on the field first will have to have good fitness. He must be preferably, a civil engineer. 3, he must have, gone through, fundamental courses on, say, project management, fundamental courses on, how to compute IRR. And he should know that what is the return from a project and how to meet timelines. And then he should also have a good HR skill in managing any issues that come on a project site. Now, we identified people, and then we decided that these people with this kind of attitude, if they are sent for a training program where we provide them intensive training on what are the standards which they should not compromise, what are the operating level areas where they can drive decisions. We identified about 10 different parameters, and to go through training on those 10 different areas, we wanted them to have some sort of a fundamental competency. And then we designed programs in such a way that when a guy is joining, he should have this kind of programs we should give them. Then when we are moving him one level up, we should give him those programs, because already this becomes a hygiene thing in his DNA, organizational DNA for him. Then he moves on further. So that is how the analysis will have to be done before you talk about value to the business. Then afterwards, your workforce analyst, whoever is your department, I would only say that you take the support of your data scientist or workforce analyst, and then you get insights about the entire project. And when they will have to come to you and giving various dimensions to your to the problem statements and hypotheses which you have defined for them, and they must, they should be in a position to uncover insights. One, analysts cannot assume that project sponsors are able to derive. They cannot assume that they will be able to do it. They should give their perspectives as an analyst. And second is, if an analyst present only data and analysis without insights, executives and project sponsors might draw their own conclusion. For example, when somebody says that, when you're, when an analyst says that this business manager believes only in sales, he does not believe that sales will come from the sales executives. He only drives people. Then then this analyst might show some data without an insight. If he says that the data reveals that 10% of managers with this kind of a behavior, who are more, I would say, result oriented, lack people orientation in the company, as a result of which those guys who are working under these managers are resigning. These kind of insights, if they bring out, I recall there are, in large organizations, we have a grievance committee. when somebody is not very happy with his promotion or or rating, he can come to the grievance committee and voice his grievance. Then I used to sit through the grievance committee, in the panel. Sometimes I used to be the chairman, sometimes I used to be a member, sometimes I used to be a second member, independent member and all, due to various organizational requirements. In my experience, I have found out that when people start talking about the people orientation versus result orientation, in these kind of committees, it's very stark. If you, if you take a pattern of around 50 employees coming to the grievance committee, out of around 300, 400 employees, you will realize that who are the managers who are very clearly not in. You don't, if you do an analytics out of that data, you will come very clearly with a prescriptive model that these are the guys who are more result oriented, leading to employees leaving, and these people need to be counseled as to how they can be result oriented and in a pace setting relationship build their employees and engage them. So there are, managers are not basically bad. They are also under stress to perform. So in their, in their eagerness to deliver the results, they completely forget the insight that employees working under them will give them short-term, results, but in the long term, that cannot be sustainable. These kind of insights an analyst will have to give. Otherwise, what will happen is the managers will start thinking, that sponsors will start thinking, in this company, you take a stick and then the results get delivered. If you are goody, people will not work. These kind of wrong conclusions should not come. I'm just giving you as an illustration. There may be other way also. You can, but an analyst will have to support the insights based on the data so that the sponsors buy in that insights and move towards prescriptive action. That means analytics projects are all about helping the business improve its performance. So although insights are interesting, only recommendations will improve the business. So the analytics will have to throw insights and come out with possible recommendations. Recommendations are what business leaders and project sponsors need. Who is a sponsor? The business head is a sponsor. A well-articulated recommendation makes a great impetus for a change. In fact, we took we went through one analytics. In my experience, I'm telling you, when we were recruiting, we had recruited around 300 people and sent offer letters, and many people declined the offer. Then when we went to them and asked them questions, they said, "Sir, I got offer letters from similar organizations for similar packages. I chose that organization that was giving me a hometown posting for first 3 years and preferred them to your company because yours is an all India organization and you are saying you will get posted anywhere." Then, yes, Mr. Kulkarni?
You are making mention of the posting. Now, while giving the posting to the person, what the organization should see, whether it should be the ease of doing job or whether it should be the, what I can say, getting more mileage from the employee. What should be the case?
See, it all depends. I will tell you, it all depends on, the organizational requirement is the foremost is what some organization thinks. Okay.
Typically now, for marketing assignments, what private organizations think is that they look at the ease of doing job for people. Like they will give the posting to the persons to the place of their origin or to the place of their native or where they have more
good contact.
Good like contact. That.
Yes.
Very simple. Another thing is that no, they will fit it into the rules, regulations, and then they will post the employees. So what should be the correct criteria, whether it is the public sector or private sector or proprietorship, whatever. Thank you.
If you ask me, I'll tell you there is no right or wrong criteria. Some organizations believe that if a guy is to work, he will work anywhere. What happens over a period of time, only these kind of problems come. In fact, about 5-6 years ago, I noticed people who were given hometown posting join people who were given posting outside their hometowns or home states. They find it difficult to adjust and they want to go back to their hometowns. Now, I have also seen people where, when they go out of their comfort zone, normally this happens. See, when you recruit a guy at a middle level or a senior level, you can have that sort of a criteria that by then he has established himself in a particular area. So if I recruit him for that area, he knows the customers, he knows the government agencies, he knows the entire domain. So he'll be more useful. Whereas when you are recruiting a new employee, very many times what happens is they are put in a different job in large organizations. Say for example, when I was recruited 40 years ago, at that time the policy was that before you step into the company, you sign an agreement you are willing to work anywhere in the country or outside. So they started posting in different places and you have to pick up your threads and work. Now, employees, what happens is initial days, there is fun and things like that. Once they get married, their children start going to school. They have this problem of transfer. It becomes a major challenge. Let me tell you, my son has studied in 9 schools and he has, at every time in those days, we had to close the bank account to open a bank account. We have to close a ration card in one state, go and open a ration card. Look for schools. These kind of challenges, when your family grows bigger, is felt. And therefore, at that time, what people do in a typical government organization, they try to work out their way and they either go on a single status, leaving the family behind. In which case, half the time the guy has to shuttle between his home and office, office town and hometown. And there is a challenge of an engagement. Employee engagement is compromised. Similarly, there are some people, who work their way out and are able to get themselves retained in a place. But such kind of people, with all their efficiencies, they don't grow in the organization because of lack of mobility. So there is no right or wrong formula for anywhere with respect to the place of posting. But if you frankly ask me, I would, if a company recruits middle level people, wants to have a jump start, then compromise on this aspect and give the guy his, city of convenience and allow him to operate. But normally in government organizations, as a policy, there is also, they don't allow people to stay in the same place for more than 3 or 4 years. They say that first year the guy learns, second year the guy, stabilizes himself, third year he peaks, and fourth year he has to move out to another domain. So it is purely a matter of convenience between an employee and an organization. And to my mind, what needs to be driven is the organizational imperative. As long as an employee is convenient to operate, to meet the business imperatives from his own hometown. Normal fact is the guy, the thinking mostly happens is if a guy is in a hometown, he will have so many pressing domestic priorities that it may lead to compromising on the jobs. That is and if a guy is out of his comfort zone, his focus will be more on job. And that is also one line of thinking which people have. Nevertheless, to my mind, if an employee is happy and an employer is happy, the employee can stay wherever he wants. In fact, yesterday I'll give you one more example. Yesterday I was interviewing a gentleman who was very senior person, around probably somewhere in his mid-40s for a job. Then he was, all he said was, I'll be able to handle any job, sir. There is absolutely no issue. I'll be able to deliver what you want, but allow me to work from this particular town. Then I told him, why is it? He said, two of my daughters are going, one is in 10th standard and the another child is in 12th standard. Now, at this point in time, if I have to shift my house around 150 kilometers away, I will be, both our daughters and I'll have a problem. So if you can allow me, then I'll, without compromising on the company's requirements, I'll be able to deliver, is what he said. I told him, fine. If that be so, you go ahead and operate. We found it convenient as an organization, not as an individual as Radhakrishnan, but as an organization that I'm, heading. So these are certain things which happen, which do happen. And what happens is many times it becomes very easy also for the employee to, the company, if they are a little humane and considerate, the employee feels gratified. That's how it is. Yeah. Now, point 7 of this 8 point, this all analytics projects have a moment of truth. This happens as you communicate the outcomes of the project to get across your point. This, you have to clearly, give that moment of truth while you are getting your point across. You are able to inform decision making. Normally what happens is people show a chart and they talk something totally irrelevant to that chart. Very many people, experienced practitioners, when they show a chart, they get that chart in such a way that anybody looking at it is able to remember it forever. And because that chart gives a critical decision making point for the sponsor. If my boss is asking me, I'll show a chart and tell him, you have a look at this chart and take a decision. And if that drives him to a decision, and that is the success of the storyteller. Now, implement and evaluate. The last step in this 8-point purposeful analytics is the implementation and evaluation step has 3 discrete aims. One, it ensures that decisions are made as a result of your project. Second is, it formulates action for implementation based on the decisions. And finally, it facilitates evaluating the project against whether it returned value to the organization. So when you are doing a workforce analytics and present your case, and the last step, when you implement and evaluate, it has to add value to the company. And the people, it has to be prescriptive in nature, that you have to do. The sponsor or the business leader who has commissioned this workforce analytics should be able to take clear-cut decisions, absolute decisions that are implementable and measurable for its result in terms of return on investment to the company. These are the 8 steps. To summarize the 8 steps, for step 1, for purposeful analytics, frame your business questions. Step 2, build your hypothesis. Step 3, gather around data which will be around what you are looking for in your hypothesis. And next is conduct analysis using statistical methods. Then provide the insights which is coming out of those analysis, and then clearly you tell what needs to be done. That is a recommendation. And when you talk about recommendation, get your point across these recommendations, and finally implement it and evaluate it. The entire cycle is complete only when you implement, take approval from the sponsor to implement, then evaluate and tell the company that this is what we have done. And the return by doing this workforce analytics, this particular project, is that the company has gained by so much. Like I told you, the learning and development project can be beautifully fitted. Whenever anybody is telling you to do programs, if you can fit this and tell them that this is what we need to do, and after that you tell them this is the value to the company, then there will be credibility in whatever has been initiated, and HR will naturally have a strong credibility in the organization. These are the eight steps in the model for purposeful analytics defined by Jonathan Ferrar. Now, I just thought I will share something very interesting with the team. That is, when you want, I thought this I should tell the team, because if you want people analytics, to be undertaken. The team, what should be the team good at? To have a maximum, impact, the people analytics team should have good data. They should have superb storytelling ability, because the data needs to be presented and logically you need to talk about the story around that, and have very strong business acumen. If the guy does not have a good business acumen, he will not be able to drive anything. Then you need to have a very robust visualization capabilities. The data should be presented in such a way that the data, that visualization gets etched into the head of the sponsor or the business leader who has commissioned the project, and they have strong psychology skills, and they need to be a master in number and statistics, and they need to have expertise in driving a change, because analytics will tell you, come out with surprises which will be very high demanding experience as far as change management initiatives are concerned. See, these are the 7 ideal competencies that are required for world-class people in an analytics team. However, you won't get everybody in have all the 7 skills, because some may be good in storytelling, they may not be good in business. Of course, business, if you're not good in business, you will not be able to sustain yourself as an HR head. Then if you are good in storytelling, but if you are poor in numbers and statistics, again there is a challenge. But you need to, wherever out of these competencies, whichever you do not have, you supplement it by having people who can help you with those. Then you will automatically be able to balance these competencies and yet put up a very, very successful story as far as analytics projects are concerned, and you will be able to convincingly drive analytics projects very, very successfully. Now we come to module 3, which is in a part of our syllabus. Today, this class and the next class, we will see that here the first chapter that we were talking about was evolution of analytics. Now we had talked about what is this great hype about analytics, what are the various big data and other names in analytics that we talk about, how you drive HR analytics. And now in this module, we talk about evolution of analytics. We said that analytics draws on statistics, operations research, computer software programming, and providing insights from data which is used. In other words, you need to know how statistics evolved, you need to know how operations research evolved, and you need to know how the computer software programming has made a difference to this study of analytics. Now, in fact, I had also said in one of the earlier classes that Egyptian pyramids had also used statistical techniques when these pyramids were built. That means the statistics is as old or even older than the than Egyptian pyramids. In 1890, Hollerith, if you recall, we in those days when you write Fortran program, COBOL program and all, we used to talk about Hollerith codes. In fact, today school kids write programs, whereas the first program I wrote was at the age of, I think, somewhere around 19 years. When I was 19 years, I wrote my first Fortran program using this Hollerith codes and all to a Christmas tree using that asterisk. Those days, it was a different ball game. And in 1890, Hollerith invented a tabulating machine. And this machine was created for use by US Census Bureau to complete the process of census in 18 months. In fact, a census took over 5 to 6 to 7 years in that. I have also given the source which provides such data, valid data. Then when you talk about analytics, application of analytics, this one more research person, Snehal Yaglewad, what she did is she says that we can trace back this analytics to Second World War. Gordon Welshman along with Alan Turing, they designed a tool called traffic analysis, and they could verify the origin and destination trends of encrypted communication. In fact, they say that this Alan Turing was the one who, that we have a cryptograph and all, no? That he was able to decode the German secret codes, and that resulted in Germans losing the war, is what they say. This Alan Turing was considered to be a genius. And this guy named traffic analysis to find the origin and destination of encrypted communication signal data. He used analytics at that stage. And Harsha Rao and Deepali Jain, when they in their papers published, you can see very interestingly this analytics has been, a lot of Indian researchers have done a lot of work in analytics. Now they say that given the imprecise nature of measuring, this Pierre Simon Laplace in 1820 proposed errors associated with such measurements followed a pattern. And this is the thought which began the statistical revolution, because every time if you see the error sum of squares, if you talk about a regression, least squares method, any statistical method, it deals with only errors, and the minimum errors is what they say will give you a good measure, or a good, I would say, a trend analysis that has a minimum error. So this Simon Laplace in 1820 is the guy, because I studied statistics way back in, I hold a master's degree in statistics, and this errors and dealing with errors have been, any statistical technique if you get into, you will talk only about the deviations and errors. That's how the entire science has been developed, to minimize the errors, so that when you make a prediction, the prediction will be close to the reality. Now, this Simon Laplace in 1820 made a very good observation. And when you talk, Carl Pearson, he talked about probabilistic approach. And when you talk about probabilistic approach, that means probability is nothing but a study where things happen under uncertainty, conditions of uncertainty. And this Carl Pearson's coefficient of correlation, you would have studied in schools. This man, also contributed to a study which today we are having as data analytics. So now what happens is, with statistics and mathematics started maturing, this operations research algorithms also played a very, very critical role. In fact, operations research, they said, developed in during Second World War, where you had a lot of constraints, and you had to achieve certain objectives, keeping in mind the constraints that were there. So operations research is a science which talks about an objective function to maximize or minimize an objective function subject to a set of constraints. So operations research also matured over a period of time. And then in the last couple of decades, the introduction of computers with strong computing capabilities facilitated what people found it very difficult to execute. See, all these principles were first developed, and the execution became easier with the powerful chip, internet, and sensor technologies. Sensor technologies gave you an IT-OT integration, and your chip had a very, very fast processing speed, and that also gave a very, very good fillip to this initiative of analytics. Then when you talk about this Keith Foote, in his paper on RDBMS, Relational Database Management System, He said that in 1970s, RDBMS was invented by Edgar Cord along with SQL, SQL data. SQL is sequential query language, they say, SQL data for retrieval of database provided. And this SQL really, was the front runner for a lot of decision support systems. It was driven through, in those days, they called it DSS. And today, the analytics is, it evolved from the initial stages of what is known as a business intelligence. Because the moment you have SQL, you started having, your data warehouses. And after some time, what happened? This data warehouses became very cheap. It was initially very costly. Now, getting a technology is very cheap. With cloud technology and all coming in, there is no depth for anybody can put even if you want to store your data, photographs, even you can see the photographs and you can do image processing also. And today, storing 100 TB, 1 TB data in Google is not as costly as it used to be in the past. So cloud you get data at very economical rate. You can keep your the data storage at a very, very minimal cost, and then you could drive analytics. So the first form with the which started using this leveraging the cost of low cost of storage and the data warehousing architecture, all these things, the first form was business intelligence. That's why we said no, business intelligence picks up data from different sources and gives you a pattern, trends. It talks about what the past can tell us about what the future is going to be. Now, in fact, in the year 2005, Robert Magolas used this term big data. He used this term to represent the amount of data which was then BI tools found difficult to process. Then he said, then what happened? Hadoop, Apache Hadoop, an open source system could process the big data, which that was developed around this time. Hadoop can process both structured and unstructured data. We said, no, structured data is something with tables and all. Unstructured data is something which is a free flow. And all the digital sources can pick up that and give. We also talked about Apache Spark, Apache Cassandra also came up to address challenges. These are all improvements in dealing with the challenges of big data. In 1997, cloud computing started gaining importance. And again, Ramnath Chellappa of Emory University is another good researcher. He says that a new computing paradigm where boundaries of computing will be determined by economic rationale rather than technical limits alone. Now, cloud computing redefined the game. Small companies today which can't afford, their own data centers, they go in for cloud. Cloud, today every cloud storage company claims absolute 100% security of data. That is what they are claiming. Now, in 1999, a company called Salesforce Automation, Salesforce they called it. We used to call, the Salesforce is a fantastic technology. They demonstrated how cloud can be used, for computing very, very effectively. And big data platforms are capable of handling multi-structural data on real time. And there are very many real-time, data analytics that is being done using big data and big data platforms. There are a lot of platforms today available. Now, what thereafter, when you talk about business organizations, today business intelligence has graduated itself into predictive analytics and prescriptive solutions, and with the use of various IoT platform. IoT is the Internet of Things. Based on sensors, you start getting data on and off, and AI and ML based systems have been able to take the analytics into new frontiers. Bernard Marr, he says that two important breakthroughs led to the emergence of machine learning. One was the realization credited to Alfred Samuel that it might be possible to teach computers to learn for themselves. Second was emergence of internet and the huge increase in the amount of data being generated and stored. According to Bernard Mary, what he says is, once innovations were in place, engineers realized that it would be far more efficient to code them, to think like human beings, and then plug them into the internet to give them access to all of the information in the world. This is how, this is what led to AI and ML based, analytics, which we are seeing. That's a ultimate where people are now today. They are finding themselves in the next 20-25 years. This is going to really be a game changer in corporate world. Again, Harsha Rao and Jain say that while science in the 20th century was revolutionized by the adoption of a statistical perspective, it seems likely that science in 21st century will revolutionize due to advances in statistics, big data technology, and growth of computational power. See, the evolution of analytics is attributed to advances in statistics and the technology which is available called big data technology, which can handle any kind of data and humongous data and you have a computational power to analyze this data. These three things are very, very essential for machine learning algorithms to push the boundaries on artificial intelligence. That is how it is. Now, we will be talking about typical analytical models, most of what is BI, what is a predictive model, and what is a prescriptive model. I think we can start this today, and since we have just about 5 minutes, we will see one or two illustrations and then move on to the next class. When you talk about market sales analytics, as a business intelligence report, what can you get? What we can get is which sales area, which sales district, state, the company's region had growth, and vis-a-vis their historical performance. Which location is having a surplus inventory and which one is having a demand in market but no availability of inventory. These kind of insights a business intelligence report can clearly give. The business intelligence report also can tell you over and above this, what are the products where you are able to sell on high margin, and what are the products which are loss-making products for the company. It will also tell you what are the products where you will be able to, if you want volume, you need to sell, at a lesser margin, and it will be able to tell you. And it will also tell you what is the market where you can focus, what is the market where you should get out of, because where the company's business is not, which are the markets which are more profitable than the rest. These kind of analytics based on your past data from different sources, your sales analytics can clearly bring out. In fact, the sales analytics can clearly tell you which sales officer, which plant, which office is performing better than the rest. The analytics also will tell which segment of business is more profitable to the company, which segment is performing below potential, even though there is potential, so that you can focus on that. Like this, you can continuously start getting the business, market sales analytics reports from your business intelligence system. In fact, business intelligence system very clearly tells you how much more you should do if you have an objective in front of you. And it will throw out on a daily basis also, it can tell you what is the projection, how you can do it. Straight line, if you take at an operating level, if you're tracking every day for 30 days of a month, how the guys are doing, you will be able to see a pattern. where some people, the first 3-4 days, they don't do anything. After that, they will pick up. You can see a pattern of purchases which can be visible through your business intelligence report. I think we will stop at this stage, and we will go to the next class, and we'll talk about how you will be able to get other how you can illustrate, and you can say, we can see some illustrative examples as how a BI model, how a predictive model, and how a prescriptive model can be helpful to organizations. Any questions you have? Hello?
Thank you, sir.
Can we adjourn for the day? Hello, any questions? If you have
Sure.
Yes, sir.
Sure, thank you very much.
Okay. In fact, I'm very happy that there was an attendance of 28 numbers, even though Usha Madam told me that many people may absent. So giving a talk to a group of 28, well-learned, experienced people, I'm very happy that we could get this sort of an attendance today. Thank you very much. Next week we will again join, and I'll conclude the session with some of the illustrations, and if time permits, I will show you how a model is built, because till now I had been talking about the everything the way it should be done, but physically, if you see a model, hopefully if time permits, though it is not in the scope of your syllabus, because the passion that I have, I feel like sharing that also with this team. Time willing, God willing, next week we will do that. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.